Good morning, and welcome to the Motivational Devotional, where we are merging motivation and spirituality to create a daily dose of confident positivity. I hope that this morning's podcast will help you to be more spiritually and positively motivated so that you can transform your day.
What comes to mind when you hear another person say they hear voices? We've come to a new era in our society where the stigma on that isn't quite as horrendous as it used to be. Many paranormal shows have let us see people who aren't even psychic reacting to disembodied voices, and often those are caught on the audio, and they seem to be inexplicable. We're not quite so quick to judge that a person hearing voices is schizophrenic as people used to be. I've known people personally who were gifted in ways I can't explain, and I have also personally heard what seemed to be a voice coming out of nowhere, but other people heard it too, and it was caught on the audio of a camera. That's a weird experience, let me tell you. I can't imagine what it must be like for someone who really is schizophrenic, hearing disembodied voices that no one else can hear. I'm still not quite so sure how we know that such a person is not truly hearing something and is not gifted. How would we know? Well, that's a topic for another day and in another setting. I do think we need to do better, though, at trying to understand that. Have you ever heard God's voice? That's a whole other level of hearing voices, isn't it? It's one thing for a person to say they hear voices, but people are usually reluctant to say whether they've heard God speak to them. That starts verging on grandiose delusions and major psych issues, and so if a person does hear what seems to be God's voice, I would bet they wrestle inwardly a great deal. It can't be real, can it? Why would God speak to me? It would be a huge struggle. If we hear it, surely we would be imagining it. For most of us, we might have asked at some point for God to speak to us, but we've given up because we've never heard it. I want to offer up, though, that maybe you have. Maybe you did. But the universe, God, the Great Spirit, doesn't speak to us in words. At least, that's my take on it. I will just say right here, where any of the billions of people on earth can hear it, that I have had God speak to me. No, not in words. I've learned to listen in ways other than with just my ears. I listen with my heart. I listen with my spirit. What I have found is that one cannot listen when one is making too much noise. We make noise when our thoughts are rambling all over the place and fretting and resenting and regretting and shouting and, well, I hope you get it. It takes a quiet mind and a quiet presence. I would bet that God's voice has been speaking inside you for years, maybe since your birth, but your mind may have been just too noisy for you to hear it. We need to know that contrary to the rest of the world, God's voice doesn't rise above the onslaught of other things. People, media, and our own thoughts drown out the quiet whisper of God's voice. To hear it, we not only need to quiet the mind, but we need to develop hearing other than with our ears. When you do get your mind and your spirit quiet enough, don't be disappointed when you don't hear a disembodied voice like in Bruce Almighty. It's subtle. It's a quiet, intimate beckoning or urging or encouraging or cautioning or reprimanding that goes on. You feel it more than you hear it. In order to hear the voice of the universe, you have to tune out all the other voices, and then you may have ears to hear. God's voice comes not over sound waves, but through experience. When we look at the beauty of falling snow, a flower blooming all alone on dry earth, the stars on a cloudless night, or the chirping of crickets in the cool of a summer evening, we can be quiet enough to experience God's voice. Your brain might generate a thought that says, "Oh, that's weird." But God's voice is saying, "Look, here I am, right next to you." All of creation is telling a divine message. If we are too busy listening to the world or shouting our own brand of chaotic thoughts, we will miss it. But we can find times to get quiet and listen with new ears. There in that stillness is where we find that all of creation is conspiring in our favor. Trust that the universe always has your back. A.R. Rahman once said, "Your inner voice is the voice of divinity. To hear it, we need to be in solitude, even in crowded places."
Thank you for taking the time to listen today. Please help keep this podcast going by following the Motivational Devotional Facebook page, following @Threefold Way Radio on Twitter, and sharing the written format of today's message from motivational-devotional.com on your social media. I am deeply grateful for your support, and thank you for letting Motivational Devotional be part of your journey. Peace out. See you tomorrow. Motivational Devotional is a production of Threefold Way Radio, LLC.